The night was silent, but inside the small room the human sat wide awake, his eyes bloodshot and his hands shaking as he clutched a cold cup of coffee. He had not slept for 3 days, his body weak, his breath heavy, but his fear stronger than his exhaustion. He whispered again and again, as if repeating the words would keep him safe. "Please don't let me fall asleep when I sleep. They come." His voice cracked, his lips dry, but he dared not close his eyes. He knew what waited for him in the darkness behind his eyelids. The lights in the room were all switched on, even the smallest lamp. He had placed mirrors on the wall so that every shadow could be seen from where he sat. The television played static in the corner, not because he wanted to watch it, but because the sound kept him connected to reality. If silence fell, he feared he would slip too easily into sleep. His neighbors thought he was mad. They had seen him at night, pacing the hallways, mumbling to himself. Scratching words into his notebook, they laughed and whispered, "The human is losing his mind." But if they had seen what he saw, they would never laugh. On the 4th night, his hands trembled so much he dropped the coffee mug. The hot liquid spread across the table, but he did not move to clean it. His eyes were fixed on the window. A shape had passed across the glass, but there was nothing outside, only the dark street, empty and cold. His eyelids grew heavier. His body screamed for rest. Every muscle begged for release. He pressed his nails into his arm until the skin broke. The pain kept him awake for a moment, but only for a moment. The whisper began again inside his skull. Soft at first, then sharper. "Come back to us. Come back to us." He gritted his teeth, rocking back and forth in the chair. He shook his head violently. No, I will not sleep. I will not let you in." He turned to his journal, pages filled with frantic writing. Each entry described the same horror. When he slept, they came. They were not dreams, he knew that much. Their touch was too cold, too real. They whispered his name in a language older than stars. They pulled at his mind as if trying to drag him away. The marks on his arms proved it. Thin black lines like burns appeared after every sleep. The doctors had no explanation. They said it was stress. They gave him pills, but he refused to take them. He knew the pills would only push him deeper into sleep. And sleep was death. He stared at the clock. Each second ticked slower. The night stretched endlessly. His heart pounded, his breath shallow. He bit his lip until blood filled his mouth. The metallic taste kept him grounded, kept him awake, but his body was failing. He could feel it, his mind blurred, his vision shook. He slapped his face again and again. His voice cracked into a whisper. "Don't let me sleep. Don't let me sleep." The shadows in the corner of the room began to move, not with the sway of light, but with purpose. They stretched long arms across the wall, reaching for him. He pressed himself back into the chair, shaking his head. "You are not real, you are not real." Yet deep inside, he knew they were real. They were waiting for him. Patient, ancient, hungry. The static from the television grew louder. The mirrors on the wall shook. His eyes burned with tears. His body was ready to collapse, and then, for a single heartbeat, his eyes closed. The room fell silent. The shadows bent closer, whispering, "At last." His body jerked. His eyes flew open. He gasped for air. He had caught himself at the very edge. He gripped the arms of the chair so tightly his knuckles turned white. Sweat poured down his face. He was still awake, but just barely. The night was not over, and sleep was hunting him like a predator circling its prey. The human had not always lived this way. Sleepless and broken, once he was like everyone else, working during the day, sleeping peacefully at night. It began many months ago, on an ordinary evening when he let himself drift into what he thought was a normal dream. At first, the dream was empty. He stood in a vast field of gray dust that stretched as far as he could see. The air was heavy and every sound seemed swallowed by silence. He called out, but no echo returned. That was when he felt it. The pressure, like invisible eyes staring into his soul. Shapes began to form in the distance, long and thin, moving unnaturally. They did not walk like humans, they glided, their outlines shifting as though they were not fully part of this world. His chest tightened, his heart pounded, and though it was only a dream, he could feel his body struggling to breathe. The figures whispered as they drew closer. His name, spoken again and again, drawn out with a sound that felt wrong. His skin burned at the sound, his legs refused to move. He stood frozen while the shapes encircled him. One reached out with an arm like smoke. Brushing against his shoulder, it felt cold, sharp. As though the touch cut into him, he screamed, but no sound came. The ground opened beneath him, swallowing him into darkness. He woke in his bed drenched in sweat, his throat raw as if he had screamed for hours. His arm bore a thin, black line where the shadow had touched him. It pulsed faintly like a wound alive. He touched it. But the skin did not feel broken. It felt branded. From that night forward, every time he slept, they returned. The gray dust, the whispers, the shadows circling him. Each time they pressed closer, leaving more marks. Each time he woke weaker, colder, as though part of him stayed trapped inside the dream. He tried to ignore it at first, telling himself it was stress. His work had been heavy, his nights too short. But denial could not protect him when he realized the pattern. Each night, the creatures grew bolder, each morning the marks deeper. He locked himself in his apartment and stopped sleeping. Friends asked why he looked pale and broken. He lied, saying he had insomnia. But deep down, he knew this was not insomnia. This was invasion. The journal became his only ally. He wrote every detail of the dreams, the shapes, the whispers, the words they spoke. His handwriting grew shaky as the days passed without sleep. But he kept writing, desperate to prove he was not imagining it one night. When his body betrayed him and dragged him into unwanted rest, the dream changed instead of the endless gray dust. He stood in a chamber of black stone. Walls curved upward like the inside of a massive dome. Symbols glowed faintly. Etched into the stone, the creatures waited, circling him. But this time there was something new. A taller figure stood among them, darker, sharper. Its head was crowned with twisting horns of shadow. Its voice cut through the others as it spoke. "You cannot run forever, human. Sleep is ours. And you belong to us now," he tried to speak, to beg, to deny. But the words stuck in his throat. The leader reached out with its long hand, brushing his forehead. His skull burned. His mind filled with images. Planets consumed by shadow. Stars fading into silence. Countless beings trapped in eternal sleep. He jerked awake with a cry. His body fell from the bed. His head struck the floor. He gasped, clutching his chest as if his heart had been pierced. The mark on his forehead glowed faintly before fading. That was the night he stopped pretending. The creatures were real. They were not dream ghosts. They were predators that lived beyond the veil of sleep. He was not their first victim, and he would not be the last from then on. He begged anyone who would listen. "Please don't let me fall asleep," but no one believed him. They only saw a broken man trembling in fear. They never saw the black marks spreading on his skin like chains pulling him toward the abyss. Still, he knew the truth. They would not stop. Not until he gave in completely. Not until his mind was theirs forever. The sleepless nights began not as choice but as survival. And in the shadows of his room, he could still feel their whispers pressing against the edges of his thoughts, waiting, always waiting. The human's world began to shrink. Days turned into endless nights of fear. He no longer spoke to his neighbors except in whispers. He no longer visited his workplace. His only focus was staying awake, fighting against the pull of sleep. When exhaustion crushed him too hard, he sought help. He carried his journal, filled with trembling handwriting and strange sketches. Into the offices of doctors and scientists, he sat in white rooms with buzzing lights. Telling them his story, they listened politely, then shook their heads. "Sleep paralysis," one doctor said. "Writing notes on a chart? Your mind is tricking you. These hallucinations are common in cases of stress and insomnia." Another leaned forward with sympathy. "Your body is simply exhausted. You need strong medication. Once you sleep deeply, the nightmares will fade." The human shook his head wildly. "No, you don't understand. They are real. They touch me. They leave marks." He rolled up his sleeves to show the black lines curling across his arms. But the doctors dismissed them as skin conditions. Everywhere he went, the result was the same. People smiled kindly or frowned in irritation, but none of them believed. His friends stopped answering his calls. They avoided him on the street, whispering that he had lost his mind. One evening, he sat in a dim library, surrounded by dusty books, his head lowered over the journal. His hands trembled as he scribbled another desperate entry. A shadow fell across the table. When he looked up, he saw her. She was not human. Her skin carried faint silver lines that glowed in the light. Her eyes were deep blue, reflecting too much knowledge. She studied him with curiosity, not pity. "You are not sick," she said in a calm voice. "I have heard whispers of this before." The human blinked, unsure if she was mocking him. You believe me?" She nodded slowly. "My people call them the dream feeders. Ancient creatures that travel through thought. They move where minds are weakest in sleep. His chest tightened. So they are real, I knew it. His voice cracked. A mixture of relief and terror, but her expression was grim. If you keep fighting sleep forever, your body will die if you let yourself fall completely. They will take you either way. The end comes unless you find another path. She sat with him through the night, listening as he described every detail. The gray dust, the black stone chamber, the crowned figure. She took notes in her own language, her silver fingers tracing symbols on a device he could not understand. When the night grew long and heavy, she spoke again. The dream feeders cannot be killed in the waking world. They are tied to the realm between thought and silence. To fight them, you must face them where they live. The human laughed bitterly. Face them? You don't understand. Every time I enter that place, I come back weaker. They are stronger than me. Her eyes glowed faintly. Then you must not go alone. The words lingered in his mind. For the first time in months, someone believed him. Yet that belief carried no comfort. It carried only a new weight. The possibility that his fight was not madness. But days passed, and she returned often, bringing strange machines and symbols from her people's archives. She told him legends of travelers who vanished in their sleep, whole colonies that withered without reason. She believed the feeders were behind it all, ancient predators hiding in dreams. Still, the human could not convince anyone else. When he tried to speak of it publicly, crowds dismissed him. Some laughed, some grew angry. Many called him insane. His warnings fell on deaf ears late one evening. After another failed attempt to warn others, he returned to his room. His body collapsed into the chair, his eyes burned. He stared at the mirrors and the flickering television. For a moment, despair crushed him. Maybe they are right, he muttered to himself. Maybe I am insane. But as he glanced at his arms, at the black marks twisting like living ink, he knew the truth. Insanity did not leave scars. Madness did not whisper his name in languages unknown. The alien scholar's words echoed in his mind. You cannot run forever. He pressed his face into his hands, his breath uneven. He was alone in this fight, unwanted, untrusted. Yet in the silence of the room, he heard it again, soft, cold, familiar. Come to us. His head snapped up. His eyes scanned the walls. The shadows shifted, stretching long fingers toward him. His skin prickled with fear. The truth was cruel, but clear. No one believed him, and no one would come to save him. The only ally he had was the alien scholar who whispered of ancient legends. But even she had warned him. If he did not act soon, the dream feeders would claim him completely. And as his body trembled on the edge of collapse, he knew the moment was coming when he would have no choice but to step willingly into the dream. Not to hide, but to confront them. The human's nights grew longer, his body weakened. Yet he still fought against sleep. Every second awake felt like borrowed time. But he clung to it desperately. His only companion was the alien scholar, the strange woman of silver lines and deep blue eyes. She returned night after night, carrying small devices that hummed with faint energy. She placed them on his table. Around his chair, even by his bed, they glowed softly, filling the air with vibrations he could not explain. These are sensors, she said, her voice calm. They will detect when the feeders are near. We must record proof. Only then will others listen. The human laughed bitterly. Proof won't save me. Proof won't stop them from coming when I close my eyes. Her gaze stayed firm. Then we will find a way to fight back. But I cannot do this without you. You are the only human who has survived their touch. You are proof they exist. He stared at her, tired and broken, but something in her voice gave him a spark of strength. For the first time in months, he felt less like prey and more like a soldier. They made a pact, simple but binding. He would let her study his dreams, and she would not let him face the nightmares alone. She would stand guard as he drifted, monitor his mind with her alien machines, and pull him back if he fell too deep. The first test began on a stormy night. Rain pounded against the window. Thunder rolled above. The human sat strapped into a chair, wires running from his temples into her device. His hands shook, but he forced himself to remain still. Close your eyes, she instructed. Only for a moment. I will not leave you. His breath caught. Fear surged inside him, every instinct screamed to resist. But he had no choice. If he kept running forever, he would die from exhaustion. Slowly his eyes slid shut. Darkness wrapped around him. The sound of rain faded. The field of gray dust returned. He was not alone. The shadows emerged almost instantly, faster than before, as if they had been waiting. Their whispers crawled through his skull. "You cannot hide. You belong to us." The crowned figure appeared again. Taller, sharper. Its voice echoed like a blade against stone. "You return at last, human. Do you surrender now?" The human wanted to scream, but he remembered the pact. He remembered the scholar's promise. Somewhere beyond this nightmare, she was watching. The shadows reached for him, cold fingers brushing his skin. His body jolted, he gasped, opening his eyes. The scholar stood beside him, her silver hands pressing against the machine. "I saw them," she whispered, her face pale. "The readings are clear. The energy spikes are not from your brain alone. Something else is there." Her words confirmed what he already knew. He was not insane. The creatures were real, and now someone else had proof. But her expression hardened. "They noticed me," she said, lowering her voice. "When you fought them, one of them looked toward the machine as if it sensed my presence." Fear washed over him. "Then they will come for you too," she shook her head. "Perhaps, but this is why we must act quickly. We cannot just defend, we must strike." Over the next nights, they worked together. She brought larger devices, complex machines of alien design. She taught him breathing methods and focus techniques to keep his mind clear inside the dream. She explained that the dream feeders fed on fear and weakness, but a strong will could resist them. "You are human," she told him. "Your kind has a stubbornness unlike any other species. That stubbornness may be your only weapon." He wanted to believe her. He wanted to believe that his weakness, the endless fight to stay awake, was also a strength. One night she sat across from him, her blue eyes shining in the dim light. "I will not lie," she said. "This path will be dangerous. You may not return from the dream, but if you succeed, you will not only free yourself, you may free others who are already lost." Her words struck him deeply. He thought of the countless stars he had seen in the visions, the other beings trapped in endless sleep. If he did nothing, he was not only dooming himself, but perhaps countless others. He clenched his fists, the black marks on his arms burning faintly. "Then we do it. Together." The pact was sealed with no ceremony, no written contract. Only two weary souls sitting in a dark room while thunder roared above. One human haunted by shadows. One alien armed with knowledge, both bound by desperation. The human no longer whispered, "Please don't let me fall asleep," as a plea. Now he spoke it as a challenge, for when he slept, they came, but now, for the first time, he would not face them alone. The rain had stopped, but the human's war against sleep had only grown darker. The pact with the alien scholar gave him purpose, yet it also carried a heavy weight. She had promised to help, and now she was ready to test her greatest invention. The lab was hidden beneath an abandoned building on the edge of the city. Once it had been a storage space, now it was filled with her strange alien machines. Glowing with silver and blue lights, wires stretched across the walls like veins. The air buzzed with low energy. The human sat in the center of the room, strapped into a reclining chair, his arms and head covered in sensors. The machines pulsed with a steady rhythm, and the scholar stood beside him, her face calm but her eyes sharp. "This time," she said, "we will go deeper. We will let you sleep long enough to draw them out fully, and the machine will hold you between waking and dreaming. If it works, I will be able to see what you see." The human swallowed hard. His throat was dry, his heart pounded against his ribs. "And if it doesn't work?" She hesitated, then answered honestly, "Then they may pull you away completely, but I swear I will not let that happen. I will drag you back even if it costs me." Her words settled over him like both comfort and burden. He nodded slowly. "Then let's do it." The machine hummed louder as she adjusted the settings. Lights flickered, the chair vibrated gently. She placed her hand on his shoulder. "Remember, your will is your weapon, don't surrender. No matter what they promise you." He closed his eyes. Darkness swallowed him, his breathing slowed. For a moment, silence. Then the ground beneath his feet shifted, and he stood once more in the gray dust. But this time the dream was sharper, clearer. The air stung against his skin. The sky was black, rolling with heavy clouds, and the shadows appeared instantly as if waiting for him. Their whispers filled the air. "At last, human. You bring no fear this time, only defiance. But defiance feeds us too." The crowned figure emerged, towering above the rest. Its horns stretched higher, its form sharper. The human's chest tightened as the figure stepped forward. You are ours and you cannot resist forever. Suddenly, a faint glow appeared behind him. He turned and for the first time, he saw the alien scholar inside his dream. Her silver-lined body flickered as though she were only half real, yet her presence burned like a light in the gray field. "I see it," she whispered, her voice echoing strangely. "I see them," the creatures hissed in anger, their whispers turning to shrieks. Another mind intrudes. "She does not belong here," they surged forward, shadows stretching long and sharp. The scholar raised her hand, a wave of silver light bursting outward. The shadows recoiled, hissing louder. But they did not vanish. The human felt their pull, cold hands brushing against his chest. He stumbled back, panic threatening to consume him, but the scholar's voice steadied him. "Focus, do not let them inside. They cannot take what you do not give." He gritted his teeth. His body trembled, but he stood firm. For the first time, he shouted back, "You can't have me." The crowned figure tilted its head, as though amused. Courage, how curious. Few resist this long, but courage fades, sleep deepens, and all minds fall eventually. The shadow struck harder, slamming against the edges of the dream like waves. The gray field cracked beneath their weight. The human felt his body weakening, his knees buckling. In the waking world, alarms blared on the machines. The scholar's real body leaned over the controls, her hands moving quickly. She could see his heart rate spiking, his brainwaves surging violently. "Hold on," she whispered, both in the dream and out of it. "I'm pulling you back." Silver light wrapped around the human like a shield. Dragging him backward, the shadows screamed. Stretching long claws to reach him, one struck his arm, leaving a burning scar that followed him into the waking world. His eyes flew open, he gasped. His chest heaving, sweat soaking his skin. The machines around him flickered wildly before powering down. The room fell silent except for the pounding of his heartbeat. The scholar knelt beside him, her face pale. "You saw them fully, didn't you?" He nodded weakly, his voice hoarse. "They were real, too real. And they saw you too," her expression darkened. "Yes, and now they know we are not just prey. They know we are fighting back." The human shivered, staring at the fresh scar burned into his arm. The proof was undeniable. The dream feeders could touch both worlds now. The barrier between waking and dreaming was thinner than ever. But as fear gnawed at him, a new fire lit in his chest. He was no longer alone. He was no longer begging others to believe together. He and the scholar had stepped into the nightmare and returned. And though the risk grew greater, he knew the war had only just begun. The scar on his arm still burned days after the experiment. It was not a wound from sharp glass or fire. It was a wound from the dream itself. Every time he looked at it, he was reminded that the barrier between worlds had weakened. The dream feeders were no longer content with whispering in the shadows. They wanted to cross fully. The alien scholar studied the machines with tireless focus. Her silver fingers tapped across glowing panels. Her deep blue eyes narrowed as she spoke. "The feeders are growing stronger. They will not wait much longer if they find a way through. Your world and mine will both fall." The human leaned back in the chair, exhaustion dragging at every muscle. "Then what do we do? Keep running? Keep hiding? That won't stop them." She turned to him with a steady gaze. "None know. We hunt them. You must enter the dream not as prey but as a hunter. I will guide you. But you must face them head on." The words chilled him. But he knew she was right. For months he had been a victim, begging anyone to keep him awake. Now for the first time he had a chance to fight back. That night preparations began. The scholar adjusted the machine, changing its settings to hold his mind deeper inside the dream, while keeping a lifeline to reality. Strange symbols were drawn across his arms and chest, glowing softly with silver energy. "These markings will help anchor you," she explained. "If the feeders try to drag you away, they will slow the pull. But you must still fight with your own will. The markings cannot win for you," he nodded, fear clawing at his stomach. "And if I fail?" Her voice was quiet but firm. "Then you will never wake again." The machine hummed. The lights dimmed and once more he surrendered to sleep. Darkness swallowed him, but this time he did not resist. He stepped into it willingly. The dream opened not to the gray field, but to the black stone chamber. The walls pulsed faintly, glowing with symbols older than language. The shadows stirred at his arrival. Their whispers rose like a storm. The human returns. But not in fear this time. He comes armed. He dares to defy. The crowned figure appeared, its horns twisting higher, its body sharper. The air trembled at its presence. You have made a grave mistake, human. This is our domain.
None leave without our blessing. The human clenched his fists.
He could feel the silver markings glowing faintly on his arms. A warmth spread through him. Not enough to shield him completely, but enough to remind him he was not alone. I am not your prey anymore, he shouted, his voice shaking but strong. I am here to end this. The shadows surged forward. Black arms stretching like spears, he ducked, rolled across the cracked floor, and rose to his feet. Every movement felt heavy, but the markings held him together. The scholar's voice echoed faintly in his mind, distant but present. Stay focused, remember, they feed on fear. Deny them that food, the creatures hissed in frustration, circling him like wolves. Their whispers grew sharper, filling his head with visions, his body dying in the waking world. His mind fading into silence, he staggered under the weight of their illusions. But he clenched his teeth and pressed forward. With each step, he remembered every sleepless night, every scar, every moment of pain, and instead of despair, he felt anger. He had been their victim long enough. The crowned figure raised its hand, summoning a wave of darkness that crashed toward him. He braced himself, the markings on his body flaring bright. The wave struck but shattered against the light. The creatures shrieked, retreating for the first time. The human pressed forward, roaring in defiance. I am human, and I will not be broken. For the first time since his torment began, the shadows pulled back, but the crowned figure did not flee. It stood firm, its eyes like burning pits. You are strong, stronger than most. That is why we chose you, but strength fades, human. We are endless. The ground shook, the walls cracked. More shadows poured in from the fractures, countless figures filling the chamber. The human's knees buckled. His strength was not infinite. The scholar's voice pierced through the chaos. You cannot kill them all, you must strike at their source. Find the core. He forced himself upright. His eyes scanned the chamber. Through the chaos, he saw it. A massive black crystal pulsing in the center of the floor. Every shadow flickered in rhythm with its glow. The core, he whispered. That's their heart. He sprinted toward it, shadows clawing at his arms and legs. Each touch burned like fire. His body screamed to collapse. But he pushed forward. The crowned figure roared, its voice shaking the chamber. Do not touch it, human. That power is not yours, but the human leapt, slamming both hands onto the crystal. The silver markings blazed. A shockwave tore through the chamber. Shadows screamed in agony, twisting and shattering. The crowned figure staggered, its form flickering, its voice cracked with fury.
This is not the end. We will return.
We always return. The dream shattered like broken glass. The human's eyes flew open. He gasped for air, his body drenched in sweat. The machines around him sparked violently. Alarms blaring, the scholar rushed to his side, holding him steady. Her face was pale but filled with awe. You did it. You struck their core. He shook, his body weak but his eyes burned with fire. They're not gone, but they're hurt. I could feel it. They're weaker now, the scholar nodded. Yes, but you must understand, wounding them means they will come harder. They will hunt you with fury. The human stared at his scarred arms, his chest rising and falling. For the first time, he did not feel like prey. He felt like a warrior who had taken the fight into the enemy's home and survived. The hunt had begun, but this time he was the hunter, not the hunted. The days after the battle were heavy. The human could barely stand, his body shook with weakness, his skin pale and marked with black scars. Every movement felt like dragging chains. Yet inside his chest burned a fire he had never felt before. He had fought them. He had struck their core. He was no longer prey. The alien scholar never left his side. She repaired her machines, rewired the systems, and whispered knowledge of her people's oldest texts. Each legend spoke of the dream feeders, ancient parasites that had wandered through countless minds for ages. They cannot be killed easily, she said. They are woven into the fabric of thought itself, but you have wounded them. That has not been done in generations. The human sat with his journal, his hands trembling as he wrote. His words were no longer desperate ramblings, but careful accounts of the war inside the dream. He wrote not only for himself, but for others who might face the same terror. But the shadows did not stay silent. They whispered louder each night, their voices sharper, more desperate. They could not reach him while awake, but they clawed at the edges of his mind. Their message was clear. Sleep, human, sleep and surrender. We will end your pain. He ignored them, but he knew it could not last. His body was failing, his eyes burned. His blood felt heavy, no machine, no pact. No stubbornness could keep him awake forever. Sleep would claim him, and when it did, the feeders would be waiting one evening. As the scholar adjusted the machines, the human looked at her with tired eyes. Tell me the truth, is there a way to end them forever? She paused, her hands still. Her deep blue eyes met his. There is a way, but it is not survival. It is sacrifice, he frowned, his throat tight. Explain. She sat across from him, her silver-lined skin glowing faintly. The feeders live in the space between dreams and death. They can be sealed if someone anchors them. A living mind strong enough to bind their realm. But that mind would never return. The body would sleep. The soul trapped forever. The human's chest tightened. He thought of all the nights he had begged others not to let him fall asleep. He thought of the terror, the pain, the loneliness. Now he faced the cruelest truth of all. He could save himself for a little while, or he could save everyone forever. The scholar's voice softened. It is your choice, I will not force you. You have already given more than anyone should. If you walk away, you are still a survivor. He closed his eyes, his heart pounded. He remembered the visions the feeders had shown him. Planets consumed. Countless beings dragged into eternal silence. If he walked away, others would suffer as he had suffered. Worse, they might not survive at all. When he opened his eyes again, there was no fear left, only resolve. Prepare the machine, he said quietly. I will finish this. The scholar's face was heavy with sorrow. But she nodded. Together they prepared one final time. The machine glowed brighter than ever. The markings across his body were redrawn. Sharper, stronger. His journal lay open beside him. The last page blank, waiting for the ending he would never write. He lay back in the chair, his breath steady, his voice calm. If I don't return, tell them. Tell them humanity fought back. Tell them we didn't surrender. The scholar placed her hand on his forehead. You will not be forgotten, the machine hummed. Darkness swallowed him for the last time. The dream opened to chaos. The chamber cracked and broken. The shadows shrieked in rage. The crowned figure towered above them all. Its horns stretched like jagged spears. Its voice thundered. You should have fled, human. You cannot destroy what is endless. The human stepped forward, his markings blazing with silver light. His voice roared back. Then let me be the wall that ends you. The shadows lunged, thousands of black arms tearing at the ground. The human charged, his body burning with fire. He threw himself toward the crystal core, larger now, pulsing violently. The crowned figure struck, claws tearing across his chest. Pain exploded, but he did not stop. With his last strength, he slammed his hands into the core, pouring every thought, every memory, every shred of his will into it. The chamber shook violently, light burst outward, shredding the shadows into nothingness. The crowned figure screamed in fury, its body unraveling. You cannot erase us, human. We will return in another dream. The human gritted his teeth. Pressing harder, his voice thundered back. Then you'll have to pass through me forever. The light consumed everything. In the waking world, the machines exploded in sparks. The scholar shielded her eyes. Her heart broke as she looked at the human's body. His chest still rose and fell, but his eyes never opened again. He was alive, but lost to sleep. She touched his hand gently, tears glimmering in her blue eyes. You are not gone. You are guarding us. The journal lay open, the last page still blank. She picked up the pen and wrote a single line. He did not fall asleep. He chose to fight forever, and though the human's body rested, somewhere beyond dreams he stood eternal, the wall between humanity and the endless hunger of the dream feeders.